Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." During his time as emperor, Marcus Aurelius took a moment to record his own personal reflections, known as meditations, which are of great importance in Stoic philosophy. In the pages of these meditations, Marcus Aurelius shares valuable advice on how to improve oneself and face life's challenges. In his writings, he emphasizes the importance of adopting a broad perspective, as if considering the universe as a whole, and encourages careful evaluation of his own decisions and those of those around him. Despite facing numerous challenges as the leader of an empire, Marcus Aurelius applied the Stoic principles he followed to deal with the stresses and pressures of government, emerging as a confident and effective leader. His meditations are an inspiring source of practical wisdom, offering insights into how to cultivate inner calm, maintain perspective in the face of adversity, and promote self-development. Thus, by exploring Marcus Aurelius's reflections, we can learn valuable lessons that transcend the centuries, applicable even today. This is how he wrote 6 lessons for dealing with emotions. Lesson number 1. Embrace the virtues. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Explore within yourself, for a fountain of goodness is ready to spring up if you persist in your search." A virtue is like a superpower of character. That is a way of acting that is morally right. This way of behaving is not only good for you, but also makes the people around you happy, contributing to the good of all. The Stoics liked the idea that everything and everyone is connected, sharing things and experiences. So what helps the good of all also ends up helping the individual person. For this reason, the Stoics truly believed that those who act rightly are those who dedicate themselves to the greater good, in other words, practicing the virtues. On the other hand, the lack of virtuous behavior, according to the Stoics, is related to ignorance. When life brings unexpected challenges, virtues can be like compasses, pointing you in the right direction and keeping you focused. Nowadays, this can be difficult because people often give up at the first hurdle. When faced with the first obstacle, they often let go of all logic and lose rational control. It's amazing to realize that people who have a lot of virtue show a special calm and tranquility. To bring virtue into your life, it is very important to understand and practice the 4 main virtues of the Stoics: wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage. In the view of the Stoics, wisdom means being able to differentiate between what is good, what is bad, what is neutral, and everything in between. This means being able to overcome emotions and let reason guide moral choices, looking and thinking carefully in order to do what is right. When you're faced with a problem, wisdom gives you the ability to analyze the options clearly in your mind. Justice, which comes from wisdom, is about doing what is right and balanced, both for yourself and for others. The Stoics saw this as a responsibility to oneself, to others, and to society in general. For them, this is the most important virtue, and so if you see something unjust happening and do nothing, you are also acting unjustly, according to these philosophers. When we talk about courage, which is the 3rd virtue, we are referring to the ability to act even when we are afraid. This virtue encourages us to do what is good for everyone, or to face challenges, even when we are not sure how things will turn out. Courage doesn't mean not feeling fear, desire, or anxiety, but rather making the conscious decision to move forward, overcoming emotional barriers. Finally, temperance, also known as moderation, is about the ability to maintain a balance between extremes. This means having control over oneself, showing restraint and discipline. Marcus Aurelius highlighted the unique capacity for self-regulation that differentiates us from animals. Temperance values long-term well-being, even if it means giving up momentary satisfaction. To illustrate, think of an everyday situation such as watching television. Spending hours watching programs can provide immediate pleasure, but it compromises the time available for other important activities. In this context, practicing temperance means setting time limits and knowing when to turn off the TV to balance entertainment with other responsibilities. Wisdom is essential to determine the right amount of time devoted before exercising control. Stoicism classifies things and actions into categories of good, evil, and indifference. Seeking good, avoiding evil, and accepting indifference, depending on personal preferences, are important principles that serve as the basis for an ethical life. Marcus Aurelius, for example, focused on being the best person possible by following these virtues. Deviating from these virtues means, in essence, engaging in actions that are considered morally questionable, such as stealing, being disrespectful, acting recklessly, or neglecting to do good. However, it is important to understand that activities considered neutral, such as enjoying a peaceful stroll, do not come into direct conflict with these ethical principles. As well as promoting personal improvement, these virtues play a fundamental role in creating a state of calm and composure. By consistently aligning your actions with these values, you not only improve yourself individually, but also contribute significantly to building a more harmonious environment around you. The constant practice of these virtues establishes an atmosphere of mutual respect, where interactions are guided by ethics and compassion. It's worth noting that this practice not only elevates you to a higher level of integrity, but also has a positive impact on those who share the space around you. By cultivating these virtues, you become not only a better person for yourself, but also for the community, contributing to a healthier and more enriching environment. Before going on to the next issue, if you're enjoying the content so far, it would help the channel a lot if you'd like and subscribe to the channel. Lesson number 2. Adopt a broader perspective. Marcus Aurelius also eloquently shares Plato's wisdom. When you want to talk about people, it's best to adopt a panoramic view and see everything at once. Broadening the way we see things is very important for having a clearer mind, especially when we face problems and challenges in life. Sometimes we feel very overwhelmed, as if we were carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, just like being in the middle of a crowd in a traffic jam where the whole city seems cramped. However, by changing our perspective with a few steps, we can see a totally different reality. By stepping back and observing the vast tapestry of our world and existence, we realize how small our personal experiences are and how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things. This reflection helps us to let go of our ego, recognizing that not everything in the world revolves around us and that we are no more special than anyone else. Looking at the world in a different way shows us a vast universe beyond what is right in front of us. People often forget that their own experiences and points of view aren't the only important ones, even in their own lives. Think of someone who has had a bad experience with sporting activities. For this person, it can be difficult to understand that sports can bring joy and community to other people. This happens unless they are consciously open to the possibility of different experiences. From time to time, it's crucial to stop and ask yourself what you're missing or what you don't yet fully understand. This practice of self-evaluation has many advantages. Consider this situation. You need to decide whether to stay in your current job or accept a job offer elsewhere. This choice can be challenging, especially if you're not sure which option aligns better with your goals. Although your current job offers stability, and you have doubts about the extra responsibilities of a promotion, the temptation of a better salary is very strong. Feeling trapped in this dilemma is understandable. Have you thought about exploring a completely different field, or dedicating yourself to an extra project that complements your current responsibilities? This can be an interesting choice to shift focus away from less exciting tasks and discover many opportunities in life that you may not have realized. Adopting a broader perspective rather than focusing only on immediate concerns can be a valuable way of making more informed decisions. Looking at things from a broader perspective not only helps you to decide what is most important, but also to get ideas and fully understand a situation. It's crucial to think about all aspects and possibilities when faced with a given situation. Furthermore, taking a step back means temporarily moving away from personal opinions and prejudices. By letting go of your own preferences for a moment, you can gain a new insight and reflect on the people around you and your responsibilities towards them. In everyday situations, a seemingly small action, such as throwing garbage on the floor, may seem unimportant. However, when you stop and broaden your vision to think about the world and the possible consequences if everyone acts in the same way, you will realize how small your desire is compared to the well-being of the planet. This exercise in reflection gives you a more complete and conscious understanding of your actions in the wider context. As we've mentioned before, the Stoics placed great value on the idea that everything in the world is connected and that improving the world as a whole contributes directly to personal well-being. So taking a step back and looking at things from a broader perspective, rather than focusing only on your own life, becomes very important when facing important decisions, challenges, problems, or changes. You have the ability to ask yourself questions, whether in the heat of the moment or later, perhaps during a walk in the fresh air, or while engaged in an activity you enjoy. Something that Marcus Aurelius appreciated very much. These thoughts offer the opportunity to deepen your thoughts and actions. For example, while in a moment of emotion, it may seem unimportant to ignore small, friendly gestures. By taking a step back and reflecting on all social interactions, considering that others may also be ignoring friendly gestures, you realize the unimportance of the impulse not to practice kindness compared to overall well-being. This exercise in reflection gives you a broader and more conscious view of your actions in the social context. As we mentioned earlier, the Stoics strongly believe that everything in the world is connected, and that improving the world as a whole also directly benefits our personal happiness. Therefore, taking a step back and considering the world as a whole, not just your own life, is very important. By adopting this global vision, you gain a broad perspective that frees you from limitations, prejudices, or unnecessary doubts. This approach provides a deeper understanding of your role in the grand scheme of things, fostering a clear sense of purpose and connection with the world around you. By integrating yourself into the wider context, your individual actions acquire an expanded meaning, becoming an essential part of a collective effort to improve the human condition. Stoic philosophy teaches us that by pursuing our personal growth and development, we are, in a way, contributing to collective advancement. Imagine this idea as a gear in which each of us, by seeking to improve ourselves, contributes to the smooth running of the whole mechanism. It's as if each small individual advance were an important piece in the construction of a great puzzle called global progress. By adopting this perspective, we realize that our personal development is not something isolated, but an integral part of something bigger. This vision inspires us to act in ways that benefit not only ourselves, but also the community around us. As active members of this community, each of us plays a vital role in building a more positive and harmonious future. In this way, understanding that our actions have an impact not only on our personal lives, but also on the world around us, makes us active agents in building a more special future. This awareness not only enriches our individual journey, but also strengthens the responsibility we have in shaping the environment in which we live. It's as if, by improving ourselves, we are contributing to a global improvement, making the world a more positive and balanced place for everyone. Therefore, by seeking our own growth, we are, in a beautiful way, collaborating towards progress that embraces everyone. Lesson number 3. Principle of mental reserve, prosopis. The Stoics thought it important to learn to have a mental reserve in the face of what happens around us. This means understanding that although we can't control what happens around us, we can decide how we want to react to these events. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, explained that suffering doesn't come from the events themselves, but from how we interpret and judge those events. So what really happens is not just an event followed by a reaction, but an event, an interpretation of that event, and only then a reaction. And how could we apply this in everyday life? When faced with a situation that would normally trigger an intense emotional reaction, take a moment to think about how you're going to respond. Even if you're feeling anxious or stressed, avoid the temptation to react immediately. We know that when we're emotionally shaken, that's when we give the worst, often irreversible responses. Ask yourself if you can really control the situation. If you can't, focus on accepting what has happened and direct your attention to what you can control, your own attitudes, choices, and perspectives. Remember that your emotions are influenced by how you interpret events, and you have the power to choose a more balanced and peaceful perspective. In addition, the practice of mindfulness can be a useful tool, providing a deeper approach to developing emotional wisdom. By focusing on the present moment and observing your emotions without being automatically carried away by them, you build greater awareness and control over your emotional reactions. This awareness not only results in a deeper understanding of yourself, but can also help cultivate calm and serenity, characteristics valued by the Stoics. The practice of mindfulness, when intertwined with the principles of Stoic philosophy, transcends mere emotional regulation and embraces a deeper understanding of existence. This approach is not just about controlling emotions, but involves a more intimate connection with oneself and one's surroundings, facilitating the recognition and appreciation of significant moments. Developing the capacity for mindfulness not only strengthens resilience in the face of challenges, but also promotes a fuller, more conscious life. in line with the Stoic principles of accepting events as they come and focusing on the present. By incorporating mindfulness, you become more aware of the subtleties of everyday life, appreciating the details that often go unnoticed. This practice not only improves your ability to deal with difficult situations, but also provides a more enriching experience as you tune into the present moment. By fully accepting what is unfolding around you and focusing on the experiences of now, you adopt a more balanced mindset in line with the Stoic principles that value the serene acceptance of what is beyond our control and the wisdom of living each moment to the full. One of the things we develop is to make wiser decisions when faced with life's problems. To this end, I've left a link in the first comment for you to see how the Stoics make these decisions. Lesson number 4. Learn to control your emotions. Marcus Aurelius advises us not to let our feelings control the way we think. He encourages us to abandon falsehood, selfishness, and irritation. Acting impulsively, guided by feelings, often conflicts with a logical approach, and there's a reason for that. Our own feelings have the power to change how we see things. So if we want to keep a clear mind at all times, it's important to learn to control our emotions. Marcus Aurelius points out that the emotion of anger, in particular, does more harm than good. Contrary to what many people think, controlling our emotions doesn't mean hiding them. When we feel intense anger, such as in situations of betrayal, controlling this emotion doesn't involve denying that it exists to ourselves or others, or pretending that everything is fine. This feeling will remain even if you try very hard to hide it. According to the Stoics, controlling emotions such as anger doesn't mean trying to stifle them, but rather redirecting them. So when you're angry, ask yourself what you can do with this feeling. Although shouting at the person who hurt you may seem like a tempting choice, will it really ease your pain or improve the situation? Will it help the person who betrayed you to grow up? Think about the actions you're inclined to take and assess whether they are constructive. If they aren't, look for ways to express your emotions in a positive way. Having a quiet conversation with the person who hurt you, explaining your feelings and trying to understand their point of view, can be more effective. In addition, writing in a diary, exercising, playing video games, or doing any other activity that helps release anger are all options. Remember that anger itself isn't real. It's a feeling of your interpretation. As Guru Osho once used Stoicism, he said, "I call it the law of 72 hours. If it lasts less than that, it's because that feeling isn't real." And the vast majority of the time, the feeling isn't. Another interesting example is when we feel anxiety or fear, emotions that cannot simply be ignored. However, it is possible to direct them in a constructive way. Instead of letting anxiety stop you from taking action, look at it as a personal challenge. Use it as motivation to carry out actions that make you anxious, acknowledging it throughout the process. Let's say you feel a great deal of fear at the thought of asking your boss for a raise. For many people, this fear becomes a reason to avoid taking action and succumb to anxiety. Others see anxiety as something to be suppressed and ignored. However, neither of these approaches needs to be the only option. Instead, the fear you feel can be expressed in a healthy way and even be useful. For example, this fear can lead you to anticipate possible challenges, making you consider all the questions your boss might ask and the counter-arguments you might face. That way, you can prepare properly and develop a plan to deal with each possible scenario. It's vital to point out that fear often plays a constructive role in our lives, acting as a positive impulse that encourages us to move forward, face challenges, and thus grow as individuals. Seeing fear as a catalyst for personal development is a valuable perspective. It means understanding that we are capable not only in spite of fear, but to a certain extent thanks to it. By facing situations that cause us fear, we demonstrate a resilience that arises from the courageous acceptance of our fears. Within this context, it is relevant to explore the constant presence of anxiety throughout this process. Anxiety, although often seen as a challenging emotion, proves to be a frequent companion on our journeys of overcoming. Recognizing and reflecting on anxiety in a positive way can be admirable, as it represents a conscious effort to face and overcome an emotional obstacle. Developing the ability to efficiently redirect intense emotions not only contributes to overcoming fear, but also provides lasting serenity. This means that, regardless of the circumstances, we can maintain mental clarity, making conscious and balanced decisions, without tumultuous emotions becoming an obstacle to our growth. Lesson number 5. Exercise the duality of control. In the wise words of Marcus Aurelius, true power lies in your mind, not in external events. Recognize this and discover your strength. The idea of having duality of control highlights the difference between what we can and cannot drive. Things like the weather, unforeseen traffic, or what others think are out of our control. However, we can make decisions about things like our clothes, timetable, and who we choose as company. When you are faced with situations that stir your emotions, think about what you can control. What you can control is a reason to act. What lies beyond that, we need to learn to accept and embrace, without letting it affect our well-being. This approach builds a solid foundation for facing challenges, strengthening resilience, and promoting a more balanced life. A very important part of the duality of control is amor fati, which translates as love of destiny. Fully accepting life and all that it brings means having a constant affection for what happens. Even if we have no control over what will happen or the situations that will arise, the decision to love life remains in our hands no matter what. Let's imagine, for example, that you feel very sad about not getting your dream job. It's normal to feel this way, since things didn't work out as expected. However, it's important to look at the situation in a different way. Instead of seeing it as a total defeat, examine the elements that led to this outcome and use them as a basis for making positive choices. That way, even when you face challenges, you strengthen your ability to find solutions and maintain a resilient love for life's journey. If you didn't get the job, it may have been for reasons you can or cannot control. If the failure was the result of your own actions or decisions, there is room for improvement. Working on these areas and trying again in the future is a constructive way of dealing with the situation. On the other hand, if you weren't selected due to external factors, such as favoritism or not fitting in well with someone on the hiring team, this is out of your control. In this case, understanding that the opportunity may never have existed can help you avoid unnecessary frustration. Embracing your destiny means detaching yourself from fixed results and external success factors. For example, if you dream of being a writer and define your success based on book sales, you're putting your achievement in the hands of the literary market, something you can't directly control. However, if you measure success by satisfaction with the final work or the effort invested, you retain control over your journey. By embracing the mindset of acceptance, you put yourself in tune with life's inevitable changes, allowing you to adapt more smoothly to ever-evolving circumstances. Understanding that not everything is under our control frees us from the constant pressure of trying to shape every aspect of destiny. This doesn't imply passive resignation, but rather an openness to learn from experiences, grow from challenges, and thus develop lasting resilience. This approach also provides a space for appreciating the small, everyday joys that often go unnoticed. By focusing on the process rather than the end result, you become more aware of the nuances and learning opportunities that each moment offers. This not only enriches your personal journey, but also contributes to a more positive mindset, allowing you to celebrate not only major achievements, but also daily progress. In this way, by integrating acceptance as a moral compass, you develop a solid foundation for building healthier relationships and a deeper understanding of yourself. Full awareness of the present becomes a constant ally, providing a stable basis for facing uncertainties with courage and grace. Ultimately, embracing acceptance is not just an attitude, but a lifestyle that promotes balance, authenticity, and lasting well-being. Lesson number 6. Train your perception. Marcus Aurelius advises us, choose not to be hurt and you will not be hurt. One of the important principles of Stoicism is to take control of how we see the world around us. In our daily lives, we have a habit of constantly judging everything that happens, every event we experience, and every person we meet. Each thing is given a classification, whether it's good, bad, dull, fun, beautiful, ugly, and so on. Even though it's something we often do automatically, this practice can be tiring and have a negative impact on our lives. Let's use an example to understand better. If we call every moment of a difficult day terrible, this ends up coloring the whole day with an even more negative outlook. If we label a party as boring, it becomes the main story of that week. We often let our emotions influence these judgments, which means they're not entirely rational. In addition, labeling every moment can happen when we use too many exaggerated comparisons and expressions that magnify situations. For example, if your friend decides to move away, instead of understanding that his feelings have changed, we can tend to interpret the situation as if he has broken our heart. This shows how it's not the events themselves that make us feel bad, but how we choose to interpret them, often automatically. The Stoics, on the other hand, suggest that we should be careful to evaluate everything that happens and the actions we take. An intelligent strategy involves challenging our first opinions, in other words, having the ability to look beyond them. This means letting go of first impressions in order to assess situations in a more optimistic and reasonable way. For example, seeing the less exciting part of a party as a chance to explore a new environment and meet different people. Even if, in the end, there is no meaningful connection, going into the party without negative expectations allows for a more positive approach. Therefore, practicing change to avoid judging everything based solely on first impressions and emotions is an effective way of improving the way we perceive life. Whenever you form an opinion about something, it's beneficial to ask yourself, could there be a better or more positive perspective from which to interpret the situation? Marcus Aurelius pointed out that evil only exists when it is perceived as such. This implies that difficult experiences seem more challenging and negative when perceived in this way. Control over the impact of certain situations on your life is entirely in your hands. Stoics also encourage seeing anything negative as an opportunity or source of good. As part of the exercise to cultivate a Stoic perspective, there is the challenge called transforming the obstacle. Let's use an example. When dealing with a new colleague who is a slow learner and whose mistakes impact the company's bottom line, it's natural to feel frustrated. This colleague appears to be an obstacle to achieving effectiveness, efficiency, and profits. However, this situation can also be an opportunity for good. This circumstance offers a valuable chance to practice patience, hone your skills as a mentor, learn how to incorporate new team members, and deal with challenging moments. Each of these skills not only brings immediate benefits, but also plays a crucial role in sustainable profit growth over time. As Marcus Aurelius famously said, "That which stands in the way of action becomes the action. That which stands in our way becomes the way itself." Instead of jumping to conclusions, it is valuable to take a moment to contemplate situations objectively and impartially. By adopting this process, we can discover that life is simpler and more transparent than we initially assumed, presenting both positive and negative interpretations. Adjusting our mental approach to focus on positive perspectives allows past setbacks to lose some of their impact, providing a more serene and balanced life. By looking for deeper meanings in each experience, we begin to build a richer and more coherent internal narrative, promoting a sense of purpose in our journey. This shift in perspective not only positively impacts emotional well-being, but also strengthens interpersonal relationships. Understanding and empathy become central elements in interactions when we allow our vision to broaden. This expansion of horizons contributes to a more enriching and meaningful journey in which every experience, positive or negative, becomes a valuable piece in building our path. Controlling your emotions is essential for maintaining peace of mind. But in order to maintain this peace of mind, it's not just by mastering these 6 lessons, but by having the discipline to stick to them. If you control your emotions and are disciplined, you will be unbeatable in the face of life's adversities. Click on the video on the screen and see right now how to become unbeatable.